Ridge community. This is your virtual bestie, Simran Adderley. Welcome back to the Ridge Podcast, the show where we explore topics that inspire you, grow you, and make you a better version of yourself. In today's episode, we have an incredibly inspiring guest with us today, Jennifer Dawn. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Simran. I'm so excited to be here. And hello, everybody. Great to connect with you.
Can't wait to dive all into this episode, talk about spirituality, your new book that's coming out this year. So all about it and your personal journey as well as a spiritual entrepreneur. So that's very exciting.
Thank you.
And a little bit about Jennifer. Jennifer Dawn is the owner and CEO of Jennifer Dawn Limited and is known on social media as a Sagittarius Coach. She is a dynamic speaker and accomplished author with 5 international best-selling books to her name. Jennifer has written 1 solo book and 6 co-authored books. Her nonfiction book, Dad's Pennies from Heaven, will be released by Hay House later this year. Jennifer shares her experience as a caregiver and daughter with her father who had dementia and the unknown truth about dementia that he shared during his final days. She is a spiritual medium and shares her journey with her dad from both the physical realm when he was alive and how she is still connected with him on the other side. Jennifer is passionate about helping spiritualpreneurs excel as she encourages them to embrace the path that resonates with their soul and create soul-aligned businesses and practices. This is so exciting. Welcome once again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Actually, let's start by diving into your journey and talk about a little bit about your journey to becoming a Sagittarius coach and also what inspired you to start your spiritual business.
Okay, sounds good. So if anybody's familiar with the Sagittarius sign, the Sagittarius astrological sign is all about truth. They're known as truth seekers. And fun fact, we're also known as being very blunt. So Sagittarius are very direct. And so my coaching style is exactly that. So how I came up with a Sagittarius coach, yes, I am a Sagittarius coach. I've been asked, well, if you're a Sagittarius coach, does that mean you only coach people that are a Sagittarius? That is not a true story.
Good to know.
Yes, just, yeah. But I called myself a Sagittarius coach because that is my coaching style. So it's very direct. It's all about getting to the truth, and I get down to the layers.
Love it.
So thank you. So, and it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to know the truth, but for those that want to know the truth, that they want to take their business and their practice to the next level and have a soul-aligned business and practice, then I'm definitely the coach for that.
Amazing.
So an answer to how I started my whole business, right? That's right. So yes. So my business actually started back in 2018. So I actually used to be in management 30 years, so 3 decades. So I actually turned 50 this year. So I was actually in over 30 years of management, and I was in veterinary management at the very end of my management career. I was sitting in the office. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was sitting in the office and I looked at my piles of paper, looking at all the chaos that was around me, and I'm like, you know what, this is not for me anymore. I want to be my own boss because I come from an entrepreneurial family, actually.
Good to know.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? I want to be my own boss. That's it. Done. I'm giving my notice. And I just gave my notice.
Wow.
I had no idea what I was doing. So
Was it like a really strong feeling? Like we call it gut feeling? Okay.
Yes. It was so strong because I had been hearing it for a bit. And it just got louder and louder and louder. I was like, okay, that's it. So I gave my 2 weeks notice, and my boss is like, what? I'm like, see ya. Thanks for the opportunity, but time to go. And I've been working for myself ever since.
Wow.
So,
that's beautiful. And how has your journey, that's amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
How has your journey been ever since you quit your job and now we went on the spiritual journey? Were you always spiritual?
Always spiritual, but if I had to condense the last 6 years of my life, it would take 3 books to condense it.
Wow.
So since 2018, I was married and divorced. So I got married in 2018, got divorced in 2021. My whole life has changed, personally and professionally. Every aspect of my life has changed. I've also moved 4 times since 2020, but who's counting? 4 times. And my personal life, as I said, has changed. So I'm married, divorced, and now in a serious relationship.
Wow. So good for you.
Thank you. So, and spiritually, I have always been spiritual. I thought everybody was like me. Apparently not. So when I was 4 years old, I used to see this girl on the playground. I thought everybody could see her.
That gave me goosebumps. Yeah.
I thought everybody saw her. But no, when my mom thought it was an imaginary friend, it was not an imaginary friend. It was the spirit of a child that had passed away. So I used to see my friends' pets that passed away. I thought everybody could see them walking around. And then I discovered that is not a true story. Not everybody could see what I saw. Wow. So I've always been spiritual. Yeah. And then you might get a kick out of this, you and your listeners. So let's fast forward to when I was 10 years old. So one of my girlfriends' mom clued in that I was highly intuitive, a psychic, and a medium. And the next thing I know, she had me come over for sleepovers, not just for my girlfriend, but for her. So she had all her friends come over, and next thing I know, I'm doing readings at 10 years old. Oh. So I was their Friday, Saturday entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah. That must be so cool. I mean, were you in disbelief when you really experienced that, okay, I have these special powers? Or, even during the transition of being more in tune with yourself and being more aligned with the truth, as you mentioned, always looking for that truth. What was that experience like? Were you in disbelief? Like, why do I have these powers? Like, why doesn't anyone else have these powers? Or do we all have this?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So I personally believe everybody is intuitive. Right. I personally don't believe everybody's a medium. There is a difference. So a medium actually is a person that connects with the spiritual realm. So not everybody is able to connect with the spiritual realm.
Good to know. Okay.
But I do believe everybody has intuition, but not everybody has embraced it. So this is where my journey was quite interesting. I actually always believed in myself. And unfortunately, I love my mom dearly, but my mom was trying to protect me. So she always told me, never tell anybody. Since I was little, she always said, don't tell anybody what you can do, what you can see, what you hear. She's like, they will think you're crazy. And I didn't know why. But it's actually because my mom's mom, my grandmother, who I have this dedication tattoo for, my grandmother was highly, highly intuitive. And when I was 3 years old, apparently I told my grandma all the things that were going to come out of the dryer, the colors of the socks, everything before she pulled them out of the dryer. She turned to my mom that day and said, your daughter is the strongest intuitive in the family.
Wow.
My grandmother actually encouraged my intuition since I was little. She was the only one in the family. I now know why, because in the 60s, my grandmother was what we call clairaudient, which is also known as clear hearing, which is actually the strongest intuitive ability that I have. I actually hear from the spiritual realm. In the 50s and 60s, if somebody said that they heard voices, you can imagine what happened.
They were called crazy, I'm sure.
That's exactly what happened. So my grandma was actually locked up in the psych ward and was given shock treatments because she actually was clairaudient like myself. So that's why my mom always said, don't tell anybody, they'll think you're crazy.
That makes sense, yeah.
So, but then fast forward, I grew up and I got to the point where I was like, that's it. I don't care anymore. I'm telling everybody. So in 2017, I came out of the spiritual closet and I opened a Facebook group and advertised to the world what I could do for the first time in my life. So it took a long process and a lot of years to just break away from the chains of fear from my family.
I bet. I mean, if that belief is instilled in you, I mean, you're operating from that belief, right? Because you care about this person that is watching over you.
Exactly.
So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely want to understand this aspect because, you mentioned that you're always hearing things.
Yes.
So how does that really work? Let's say you're meeting people on a daily basis, right? Are you always tuned in or the other person allows you to tune in? Like, how does that really work? I really want to understand the aspect.
Okay, so
because I'm curious to know. I'm sure our listeners would be as well.
Okay, sounds good. So for clairaudience, as we already talked about clear hearing. So I actually hear all the time by choice.
Got it. Okay.
So years ago, I actually said to them that I had open closed hours. So I would actually tell them, you know what, guys, I don't want to hear anymore. Because where I go to grocery stores, restaurants, even like sitting with you right now, wherever I go, I hear.
I bet.
All the time. And so years ago, I didn't want to do it anymore. Like it was too much because I also had too much going on in my personal life. And it just felt like it was stacking up. Yeah. So I said, guys, stop. Only when I'm in sessions, please talk to me. So they respected that. So, but then 3 years ago, I actually said to them, okay, guys, bring it on. You can talk to me anytime. So literally, I go get my nails done. I got my nails done in Chilliwack, BC, not that long ago. Walked in to get my nails done. That girl had no idea what was about to happen. She does my nails. She gets a mediumship session with permission. Her dad had passed away. It was actually his death anniversary that day. And he came forward, sent a message, and I asked her permission if it was okay. I shared the message because that's really important. I learned that the hard way. So I shared a message with her, and she was able to connect with her dad on his death anniversary. Wow. So I know now that when I hear, it's not a coincidence. It's not a mistake. It's usually a significant time for whoever I am connecting with. If there's something going on in their life, or it could be the death anniversary, like that dad. There's always something significant the timing that I hear a message. Years ago, I did not know that. I just thought it was random willy-nilly messages. It's not. Totally. It's not at all.
It's like building that muscle, right? You have to keep working on it to kind of understand, okay, where am I tuned in and when I'm not, right?
Exactly.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome.
I do want to talk about your upcoming book, which is Dad's Pennies from Heaven, which is deeply personal to you.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your relationship with your dad and how his battle with dementia influenced your writing?
Okay. Yes, that was a very powerful turning point in my spiritual journey, actually. So my dad passed in June 2019, but prior to his passing, for 2 years, I was not able to have a conversation at all. He couldn't even communicate. For anybody that's familiar with dementia, he was in the final stages of dementia. He had other health issues, which actually was what ended his life.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. So for 2 years, I didn't have a conversation with him. And I was very, very close to him. And it broke my heart the way he was talking to me when he did talk, the way he was talking to me. We live in BC, and he said, Jennifer, he goes, when I die, you're going to spend the rest of your life trying to find which maple tree I'm buried under. And he's like, because there's so many maple trees in BC, he said, you're going to spend the rest of your life trying to find me. That was the dementia talking. I had no idea how my dad was going to change my whole life in a good way. So I always wanted to be a writer. My grandmother was a published writer, my mom's mom. I always wanted to be a writer. I just didn't know how it was going to happen. On my dad's final week, my middle son was with us visiting my dad, and he turned to Matt and said, Matt, he goes, your mom is going to write a book.
And this is
my dad.
Your dad, wow.
So the final week of my dad's life, he had no dementia. I was able to have full conversations with him. So was my mom. So was my middle son, Matt. Full conversations. And we had no conversations for 2 years. It was a miracle. And then it was them. I had an idea to audio record the last 4 days of my dad's life. Thank goodness I did, because on those audio recordings, which Hay House will be releasing at the time of the book, my dad actually goes, I thought he was sleeping. Now I know he was not sleeping. He was actually transitioning to the spiritual realm. That's what happens for everybody. But he was lying down, thought he was sleeping, and all of a sudden he goes, that's me. That's me. They're showing pictures of me. And I said to my mom, oh my word, he's seeing his life reel. I just got that on audio recording. He's seeing his life reel. And he also says on the audio recording, he goes, Jennifer, I died, but I came back to continue to teach you. And then, to give you a sneak peek of why this book was so important for me to write, in Canada alone, well, actually worldwide, every country is being impacted by dementia. In 2020 alone, it cost $40 billion for dementia care in Canada. That's just Canada.
That's huge.
Right now, there's over 733,000 Canadians as of January 1st that have dementia. And over 2/3 of them are women, which is interesting. So I felt that my dad shared this message with me on his deathbed so I can make a difference and help people worldwide with dementia. What the message was is, and when you read my book, Dad's Pennies from Heaven, you'll get to read more. My dad shared what it was like for him having dementia on his final days and told my middle son, Matt, and myself that it was two people in his body. He said it's his dementia self and himself. And he said the dementia self, the other person, he called it, the other person had control of his body and his words and said those awful things about like the maple tree. He said that was his dementia self. And he said his true self was inside and could hear everything that he was saying to me, everything that he was saying to the medical professionals. And he had no control over that dementia person. That information, from my knowledge, has never been shared anywhere in the world. So the head of the Alzheimer's Society of BC for Education actually wrote the foreword for my book, For Dad's Pennies from Heaven. She's worked for them for over 30 years, and she also works for the International Society, the Alzheimer's Society. She said nowhere has she ever seen anything documented like this. And she said even if people have a couple minutes at the end before they pass when they had dementia, she said normally it's only a couple minutes. She's never heard of an entire week of no dementia.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is profound, first of all. Like, thank you for sharing this.
Oh, you're welcome.
It must be very personal. And the fact that you're able to do this work because of your connection with Dad on the other side is amazing. Because usually when there's a passing, there's a big loss.
Yes.
We think that's the end of the relationship. We're never going to be able to connect with them again.
Right.
The fact that you were able to, and there's hope out there, because sometimes we don't even we're not even open to the idea that there might be a connection on the other side where we all come from, which is home, right?
Yes.
To all of us. So I'm pretty much open to this as well. So it's good to know that, people like yourself and, everyone in this realm are coming out and talking about this a lot more, because more than ever we need this, especially for the last 4 years now. We have to sit with ourselves, really face the truth and go inwards. I myself went through that journey as well, because I feel like, my first awakening that I can think of was back in 2018 as well. So it's so relatable. I would call it dark night of the soul, because I had no idea what was happening. I felt like everything was falling apart in my world, but I had to really go inward. So there's actually a question that arises from this, because the more I'm connecting with people and talking to them, at least few people, let's say 5 people out of the 10 have experienced this for the last 4 years, and they had to really face this awakening that they're going through, and they don't really understand what's happening to them. Sometimes they feel ashamed to talk about it because it's still really boo-boo in the world.
Yes.
Or, hey, become more practical. What are you saying? Kind of thing. So someone listening right now who's going through the awakening, or they are on this journey as well, in the spiritual journey, what can you recommend? How can they receive more support during this time so they can, raise their consciousness and expand as well?
Yes, such a powerful question. So I agree with you. Ever since 2020, this is my personal belief, ever since 2020, I have seen a huge increase in people being awakened. Huge increase. And I've also noticed that there are a lot of 20-year-olds, 20s to early 30s. There's a lot of people in that age group that are awakening. What I highly recommend as you're going through that, the biggest thing is community. Surround yourself with people that are like-minded, that understand your language. Because literally when you're awakened, you will see life completely differently. You experience life differently. Even your senses have changed. And so it's not in your head. If it feels like your tastes have changed, you have physical sensations, even pains. A lot of people don't talk about that with spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening is not all unicorns and rainbows. It actually can be physically painful. And I actually had written a magazine article, actually for Fresh Magazine, about this. And I called it the tandem bike theory, because I have a theory that there's the soul self. So anybody that's familiar with the tandem bike, there's 2 seats, right? 2 seats, 2 sets of pedals. It's for 2 people. So the soul is at the back, the human self is at the front. When a spiritual awakening happens, the soul self goes to the front, the human self goes to the back, but they're working in tandem. So what happens is your physical senses and your intuitive senses actually merge together. But as this merge happens and as the spiritual awakening occurs, physical pains and discomforts happen as the swap, as I call it, the swap is happening. So a lot of people think they're losing their minds. They don't know what is happening. All of a sudden, foods change, music changes, even TV, movies, things that they used to like, they don't like. Now things that they used to not like, now they like. They're like, what is going on? And their relationships are changing. This is something that is so important. A lot of people do not talk about. When spiritual awakening happens, your relationships will change.
Right.
And people that are non-awakened, that are surrounding you, might be questioning you, going, what is your deal? What is going on with you? And most people are not able to actually verbally explain what is happening to them. They just know something is occurring. So the biggest thing, surround yourself with like-minded people. There are so many groups, there are so many courses, workshops, whatever resonates with you, but surround yourself with like-minded people that will help you to develop, and surround yourself with high vibe people, because that's the other thing. As you're spiritually awakening, your sensitivity has increased.
Yes.
So it is really, really important. If I could take a highlighter, I'd highlight that. Really important to surround yourself with high vibration people as you are developing, as you're going through the awakening. Because also you mentioned about the dark night of the soul. I also went through that. And if you're surrounded with people who put you down, make you feel crappy, that's just going to make the whole process, the journey of awakening, so much more painful, and it doesn't need to be. So, and also feel free to message me too if you would like some recommendations and guidance as well about your awakening experience too. But you don't have to do it alone. And that's something I wish I knew when I was going through it, because nobody around me knew what I was talking about. It was literally like a different language.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that is so true, because everything that you're saying about increasing your sensitivity, I've been experiencing that for the last couple years now. And it's just getting, it's just enhancing.
Right.
More, right. And I like it at the same time, because I feel like I'm listening to myself a lot more. I'm more tuned in. I'm able to make better aligned decisions with my truth, my values. And, when I first went through the awakening, which was back in 2018, and I can relate to you because I feel like I was always like that, even growing up as a child. I questioned a lot of things, and I would always speak the truth, very direct, myself. But then, I started to really wear a mask in my early 20s. Like, there was so much happening at home. There was so much happening in my relationships. There was so much happening at work, school, you name it. It was just like, I had to be something that I wasn't. And I was kind of, moving away from this truth that always resides within us, all of us, right? So, but I remember, something like there was an intervention that took place. It's like, no, like shook me up many times, whether it was some situations that occurred in my life, or similar things happening in my life again and again. It was like the signs that kept coming up, and I was like, I had to learn now, or else it's going to keep repeating. So what I'm trying to say here, even with the signs I've experienced that for the last couple of years, during 2020, so 2018 was like when I realized I'm going through this awakening. I got more in tune. I really wanted to spend more time with myself. I wanted to read a lot more, write a lot more, understand what I'm going through. So I would go on YouTube and even talk to people sometimes, and kind of start sharing my, story, or what my journey is on Snapchat story a lot more, and even started to post a lot more about it, whether that was on my story. And there were a couple of people reached out, we started to connect. So I really started to build that connection with people. And then 2020, when that took place, I was fully tuned in. I remember reading the book by Eckhart Tolle, which is, oh my God, I'm forgetting the name right now, which is like such a huge thing, which is something we talk about, the present moment, a lot.
Yes.
You're probably aware about it.
Yes.
I'll link it below because that's such a big book for me and I recommend it to a lot of people. And it's just not coming in my head right now, but it's blue and green and it's called The Power of Now.
Oh,
that's the one.
Yes.
And I remember reading, and I took my time to read that book, and I felt like I was being heard. It's like that book was supposed to come in my life at that right time, and this was early 2020 when I first started reading that book. And during that period, I took my time. I would make notes. I would highlight the stuff that was actually happening with me. So long story, and that experience just amplified. So, for a few years, we were pretty isolated. We were not doing the usual things that we were doing. So I felt like that was the best experience that ever happened to me. It was very painful, but my connection with God, universe, source, whatever you want to call it, just got better. And now I feel like I'm more sensitive to certain situations. Maybe sometimes I can't even listen to certain songs anymore or watch certain type of movies, whether that's with violence or anything like that. Like I feel like I'm very sensitive. Like I feel very depleted after watching something like that or watching certain shows. I just don't have the craving or temptation for it, even if so many people are watching it. So I love that you mentioned that because I'm sure, me experiencing that, you going through it and you being in this realm for a very long period of time, someone out there who has experienced this or is experiencing this doesn't feel alone and they can reach out to you as well and talk about it a little bit more and, we can connect as well. So I love that. I love that you talk about building a community because that's very huge.
Well, thank you. Do you mind if I just share something that they're actually highlighting?
Yes, of course. Oh my God, yes.
Okay. So, RPG, for those who play video games, also known as role-playing games. I played a lot of video games because I actually have 3 grown sons now, so I played a lot of video games. So I actually link spirituality, development, and awakening with video games. So, when I point up to the sky, it's because I have a habit of pointing to my ear when I get a message, and they just wanted me to share this with your listeners. So, spiritual development, awakening is like a video game. And you're asking, well, how the heck do you mean that?
Right.
Right? Well, development is not literally like you awaken and then that's it, you're done. That level is complete. That's the clue. Spiritual development and awakening is like a video game. There is different levels. So I defeated a lot of bosses in my time with video games. So with each level, there's a different boss. And how I link RPG, so for those that play role-playing games, you usually have like a backpack and you get all these weapons or tools and things that you put in your backpack. You go to the store, you buy things, you put things in your backpack. That is how development is like and what awakening is like. So you go through the level, you defeat the boss, you get something new for your backpack, something that you didn't have before. So I have noticed working with a lot of people from all over the world, they have this belief and misunderstanding that once you awaken, that's it, you're done. No, it is a journey. There is no end. I'm sorry to pop the surprise. We're in the surprise, but there is no end. It's not a bad thing though. As you grow and develop, you get more things for your backpack. You grow and develop into an even stronger, better version of yourself than the level before. I am not the same person from 2 months ago. I'm not the same person from a year ago. I'm sure as heck not the same person from 4 years ago. Each level I have changed. And that's why if somebody hasn't talked to me in 5 years, I almost laugh because they say, how's it going? I'm like, what? And they say, what's new? And I'm like,
do you want to talk about the different stages of awakening and the spiritual journey? Are you able to delve a little bit into that, please?
Oh, yes, for sure. So thank you for asking. So as I mentioned about the stages, it is like a video game. So there's different levels. A lot of people don't know what they're experiencing. They might think, well, I just went through an awakening. I'm good now, right? I'm awakened. Everything's done. No, actually, that's not a true story. It's just the beginning. So as you go through the level, another thing that a lot of people do not talk about with the levels, with awakening and spiritual development, is relationship changes. So relationship changes, wow. That personally had a huge impact in my life. I had no idea. I had friends, and it doesn't mean that this will happen to you, but for me, I had friends that were friends with me for a long time that I thought were really good friends. But when I went through the spiritual awakening, the higher level of spiritual awakening, they changed. And because I changed, they didn't know how to react with the new me, the new version of me. And they didn't like the new version of me. So much so that they literally basically ghosted me. And then I went through grieving of friendships. And then I was like, what is happening? A lot of people also will experience what I did, spousal changes as an awakening happens. Doesn't mean that all partnerships and relationships fall apart, but if the foundation was already unstable, and then we have somebody, one of the partners is awakened, the non-awakened partner might not be really supportive of the awakened partner. And that's what happened to me. Because it literally felt like we went two separate paths, and it's because we really did. Right? I saw life completely differently, and so did he. And he wanted different things in life than I did. So to get back to your question, so I just felt I should mention that because a lot of people that I know, friends, clients, tell me that their relationships, their friendships, even their family dynamics change as they awaken.
I can relate to it myself. I mean, there were relationships where I couldn't even talk about certain things anymore. Or I didn't know like, even if I was talking about my journey, like, we couldn't relate, right? And I'm sure there's nothing, like, we can go on separate journey, we can go on separate places, but I find that, relationships do change, and that your way of viewing things in life do change. I feel like when you're going through that, big journey in your spiritual journey, you find that you're very isolated in the beginning. I think that could be the first stage, maybe, right?
Yes.
That is something that is important, because that's something that happened to me. I felt like I wanted to isolate myself a lot more, have my personal space a lot more, because I'm always stimulated. So I needed that more me time. So
yes. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I noticed with every single person I've talked to, even though every single, including yours and mine and your viewers and your listeners, every single person's journey is unique, but there are some similarities with the stages. So what I've noticed with every person I've spoken to, what starts the awakening, there is a trigger. There is something that literally ignites the awakening from happening. Ignites it. So it could be a massive relationship change. It could be a death in the family. There's so many different triggers that actually start an awakening. And also, I've noticed, fun fact, as I mentioned, I'm turning 50. I have noticed a lot of awakeners, a lot of people awakening in their teens now as well. So I've actually been coaching teens, 18, 16 actually is my youngest client that I've had. Fully awakened. I couldn't believe it. So there's usually a trigger, then there's the awakening. After the awakening, what I've noticed is grieving is the next level. So what do I mean by that? Not just relationships, but the person actually grieves their old life, their old selves. You might, because you're looking at life differently, your likes, your dislikes have all changed. Relationships have changed, but you yourself have changed. And a lot of people I have noticed have not shared this on social media, that there is a level of grieving. It's okay to grieve your old life. It's okay to grieve your old self. You're not going to get your old self back. I'm sorry to say. You're not going to get your old self back. So allow yourself to grieve that. And at the same time, then do it in your way, what works good for you. Embrace this new self that is evolving and the new life that you are starting, this new journey. Because the old life, the old path will never be the same again. As I always coach clients, once you become awakened, it's not like you can go back to sleep again. It doesn't work that way. Once you're awakened, you're awakened.
That's very true. You can't go back, right?
Exactly. And then, so they're going to actually help us here with the level. So when I point to my ear, as I said, it means I'm receiving a message. So after grieving, they say that is the first initial stage of awakening. As we go through each level, your diet probably will change. As I said, your likes and dislikes, including movies and music, and even what you do for fun may change. Hobbies may change. Who you want to hang out with may change. And even a lot of people don't talk about this, but where you want to go will probably change as well. And the reason being because as you go up each level, your sensitivity to energy increases.
Yes.
So just like what you mentioned before too, so there was like a lot of scary movies. I grew up with Stephen King. So my mom loves Stephen King, still to this day. I grew up with a lot of scary movies. I now cannot watch scary movies. I just can't do it. My whole family can do it, but I can't. So my sensitivity has changed as each level. And I've noticed that even things that I liked before, I don't like so much anymore. Even places that I used to enjoy it in the past, now energetically, I actually can feel historic energy wherever I go, actually. So if I went to, say, a museum, I will feel all the energy with those pieces in the museum. So your level of sensitivity will increase. The taste buds will change. Your physical senses also will change. So it will feel like you are hypersensitive. They're also getting me to mention a stage. This is a higher level. So you guys are gonna laugh. I call this the psychedelic stage. Yes, I call it the psychedelic stage. So this is a higher level. So we have the initial, we got past the grieving level. We now went to the initial development stage. The next stage after that is association. So they say that after the initial awakening, then association becomes very important. So you'll start having a craving to go to, say, sound bowls. You'll have a craving to go to a healing circle. You'll want to immerse yourself with spiritual active people. That's association stage. After you've had some work on yourself and you've had some healing, you've defeated the boss on that level. You now go to the next level, and that's the psychedelic stage. So anytime I've told people about the psychedelic stage that have experienced it or just experiencing it, they always say to me, "Oh my God, Jen, that's exactly what's happening." So what happens with the psychedelic stage is it's literally like you are on psychedelics. So you literally will look at the ground, you'll look at the tree, and it's literally like you're tripping, but naturally. That's why I call it the psychedelic stage, because everything, the colors, everything around you is more vivid than it's ever been before. You're not losing it. So what is happening is the spiritual realm is actually assisting you with your development, because as you go through awakening, your intuitive development also occurs. So with each level, your intuitive abilities, as I said, I believe every single person has intuition. At each level, your intuitive abilities actually develop and get stronger and stronger. And like you said earlier, Simran, it's just like a muscle. So the more that you use it, it's like riding a bike. The more you ride a bike, the easier it gets. So with each level, your intuitive abilities are getting stronger. With psychedelic stage, they are actually focusing on clairvoyance. So clairvoyance is also known as clear seeing. And I have noticed with almost every single person that is awakened that I have worked with, clairvoyance is usually the first intuitive ability that they develop when a person is awakened. That is a whole level in itself. So also with clairvoyance, with the psychedelic stage, you'll have dreams that are more vivid. For anybody that's familiar with IMAX theater, I literally call it the IMAX experience. So your dreams are so vivid, so bright, so detailed. And you probably might have had like black and white dreams before, and all of a sudden now it's full color. You feel like you're in a movie theater. Once again, you're not losing it. Your intuitive ability of seeing is being developed, and that's what's happening.
I love it because I feel like I might be in the association psychedelic stage too, because I feel like I'm able to see things clearly, and I'm able to speak my truth in a way. No, this is in alignment with me. I can make the decision very fast. Love that you've given each level names to it, and the way that you're kind of articulating into words and kind of describing it, because that's exactly what I'm going through. So I'm sure everyone is in a different stage in their life and their journey. And they want to talk about, so when you talk about having the support system, right? Even you also mentioned about sound healing.
Yes.
I'm actually attending a lot more retreats.
Oh, awesome.
Yes, I'm actually going to a retreat tomorrow.
Nice.
Which is on a Sunday tomorrow. It's July 7th. We're recording on July 6th today. So I'm actually going to retreat. This is my second one this year.
Oh,
and I'm always looking for something spiritual that's going to be happening in the next few months. I'm attending a lot more events that I'm going to meet a lot of people like yourself. We met each other at an event.
That's right.
So I absolutely love that this journey is so beautiful, and you're just leveling up and you're realizing a different part of you. And you know what they say, that, we're spiritual beings having human experience. So I'm more in tune with that aspect now, and I try to understand that, hey, anything that's happening inside of me is just, we're in this earth school,
Yes.
we like to call it, right? We're here to learn, and we're going to be back to our home where we came from.
That's
yeah,
right.
so I love the learning aspect. I love whatever we're here to do and expand our souls. So I love there are stages to it, so it's not overwhelming.
No, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I do want to talk a little bit more about the past life regression, which you've mentioned to me that you also have experience in that you also do past life regression for people and your clients. How can you actually tell us what that really is? Maybe if this is the first time our listeners are, hearing about it, what past life regression is, and how can really our past events really, affect our present day lives? You know what I mean? Like if you can bridge the gap here a little bit.
Yes, it sounds good. So, to take you back in time, when I was 4 years old, this is how I actually was introduced in this life to past lives. I was 4 years old, and I actually ran into the house and I said, Mom, I am so tired. I don't want to do this anymore. And she's like, Oh, you want to go for a nap? I said, No.
And this is when you were 4 years old. Wow.
I said, No, Mom, I don't want to do another life. I said, I can't do this. 4 years old. I must have been an interesting child. What happened is fast forward, I'm 17, I started having a quest for getting a past life regression. Didn't find anybody. Fast forward again, I flew out to Rhinebeck and got trained personally in past life regression by Dr. Brian Weiss. So you might be asking yourself, what is a past life regression? So the belief, and I believe, the theory about past life regression is past lives literally means that a soul has many incarnations. So we're not limited to a single life. So as I shared when I was 4 years old, I already knew that.
Wow.
So I knew I had to learn about past life regressions to help people, because I have also learned in my own life that there's patterns, behaviors, even mindset that have come into this life that actually came from the past. So money mindset, for example, a lot of people have heard of the vow of silence, but a lot of people have not heard of the vow of poverty. So if somebody took a vow of poverty in 1435, fast forward to 2024, your soul took a vow of poverty, which means a lot of your financial mindset, behaviors, and actions have been a ripple effect from that vow of poverty that you took in your past life. So I have noticed also relationship patterns, even relationship connections, where you might just meet somebody, maybe you guys have met somebody, so a total stranger, and you're like, I feel like I've known them before. You have. I regret so many people and have noticed that a lot of people that they've thought that they have met in this life that they felt like they knew them before is because they did know them before. Even familial relationships. Let's say your grandmother, you felt like you were connected with your grandma before. She probably could have been your mom in a past life.
Wow.
So when I regress people, I've also noticed that a lot of family relationships have actually been connected in past lives. So which goes back to Dr. Brian Weiss teaching about the soul family, that with each incarnation, our different soul family members come back and connect with us again with each incarnation. So
That is huge. Yeah. It's good to know because I've read this somewhere about the soul contract.
Yes.
I'm sure. And then we're all here to, go through the contract. And then we made the decision from the other side to come here together and be part of this journey. So I love all of this. I think I cannot wait to delve into more with you. And if someone here who's looking to learn a little bit more about the past life regression can tune in and can reach out to you and learn a little bit more as well. So I will definitely reach out to you for that for sure. I have one more question for you. Okay. What inspires and motivates you every single day?
Oh, that's such a great question. So what inspires and motivates me every day is for creating a security for my family every single day and seeing people. The reason being is because, speaking of money mindset, I saw my mom struggle my whole life. And I want to make sure that my family, because as we know, trauma actually carries forward in the family, but so does money. Money mindset also carries forward in family generations. So I want to make sure that I break the chain and so that never is carried forward to future generations in my family. But what inspires me with working with others and every single day is I get to see people with their light that was totally dim and see them just light up because they are literally now doing their business, their practice, their life soul aligned. And when I see people literally ignited, that ignites me. So that continues to put the energetic gas in my car every single day. When I get to see, it's not because you hear people, oh, I help people. Well, that's very generic. But I love actually seeing people helping them ignite from within on a soul level, because a lot of people deal with surface level, which is great for them. But for me, I want to work with people on a soul level. And that ignites me and excites me every single day.
That is beautiful. I'm so glad the work that you're doing and the journey you're on because we need more of that in this world. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And before we end here today, can you tell our listeners where they can find you, work with you?
Oh, sounds great. So my website is www.jenniferdawn.net. And my email is info@jenniferdawn.net. And you can find me on social media as the Sagittarius Coach. And if you go on my website, you can sign up for updates. So that way you can find out when Dad's Pennies from Heaven is going to be released by Gatehouse.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to be listing everything below in our show notes. So thank you once again. It was lovely having you here. And I'm sure our listeners who are on this personal spiritual journey will take so much away from everything that you mentioned on this episode. And of course, if they want to work with you, they're going to be reaching out and connect with you as well so they can enhance their spiritual journey that they're on.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me here today, Simran. And thank you, everybody, for listening. Looking forward to connecting with you.
Thank you so much, Enrich Community, for tuning in. Like always, I'm going to ask you to subscribe to our channel, leave a comment below, like our video, and share this episode with someone that you truly care about or someone that you know is on their personal spiritual journey that will take so much insight from this episode. Once again, thank you always for tuning in. And I'm going to leave you with this, like I always do, sending you a lot of love and positive vibes. Take care. See you next time.